Hello everyone, welcome to the chapter of Fundamental Rights. In this chapter, we will deal with the Article 14, that is equality before law. We will understand the basic concept of Article 14, underlying principles, legislative classifications, test for valid classification, along with some case studies. Article 14, equality before law. The state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws within the territory of India. Article 14 guarantees to every person, including non-citizen and transgender, the right to equality and the equal protection of law. Article 14 uses two expressions. First, the equality before law, and the second, the equal protection of laws. The first expression, equality before law, have been taken from the English common law, and it is a declaration of equality of all persons in the eye of law, implying absence of any special privilege in any individual. Every person, whatever his rank or position, is subject to the jurisdiction of the ordinary court. Dicey said, with us, every official from the Prime Minister down to the constable or a collector of taxes is under the same responsibility of every act done without any legal justification as any other citizen. So, whereas the second expression, the equal protection of law, which is rather a corollary of first expression, directs that the equal protection of law shall be secured to all the person within the territory without any favor or discrimination. The expression equal protection of the laws is a positive obligation on the state to ensure equal protection of the laws by bringing in necessary social and economic changes so that everyone may enjoy it. Equal protection is a place for the protection of or guarantee of equal laws. Article 14 uses these two expressions to make the concept of equal treatment a binding principle of state action. Patanjali Shastri, a former Chief Justice of India, observed that the second expression is the corollary of the first expression. It has been said that the equal protection of laws is a place of protection or guarantee of equal laws. The two expressions are simultaneously used in Article 7 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948, which may have influenced the formulation of Article 14. In the case of Indra Sonai versus Union of India 2000, Supreme Court held that right to equality is the basic structure of Indian Constitution. Article 14 applies on both natural as well as on juristic person. Among the natural person, all human beings are included, like male, female, and transgender, and corporation can be included in the juristic person. In the case of Suresh Kumar Kaushal versus Nas Foundation 2014, court held that the discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity also covered by this article. Underlying principle: equal must be treated equally, while unequal must be treated differently. The underlying principle of equality is not the uniformity of treatment to all the person in all respect, but rather to give them the same treatment in those respects in which they are similar and different treatment in those respects in which they are different. For example, the same treatment of all respect to a child as to adult or to a rich as to poor will result in the unequal treatment. Taking another example, like equal treatment, the same treatment provided to a physically challenged person and to a healthy person will result in the unequal treatment, and no one can justify this treatment because the treatment should be as per the requirement of the people. Now, the legislative classification. The right to equality, as incorporated in Article 14 and discussed above, required adequate legislation for its operation so that equals may be treated equally and unequal may be treated differently. The principle of equality does not mean that every law must have the universal application to all the persons who are not by nature, attainment or circumstances in the same position. So, different classes of person requires different treatment. In the case of Kedarnath Bajoria versus State of West Bengal, 1953, court held that the equal protection of law guaranteed by Article 14 does not mean that every law must have the universal application, and a state has no power to classify or distinguish person or thing for the purpose of legislation. Now, test for valid classification. The legislative classification to be valid must be reasonable. It must always rest upon substantial distinction bearing reasonable and just relation to the need or purpose in respect of which the classification is made. In order to pass the test for permissible classification, two conditions must be fulfilled. The first one, the classification must be founded on an intelligible differentia which distinguish person of the thing that are grouped together from other left out of the group. And the second one, the differentia must have a reasonable relation to the object sought to be achieved by the statute in question. Taking example, a section 11 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 says that a minor cannot enter into the contract. So, here, there is a classification into adult and minor, and the basis of classification is age. So, which has a relation to the object of the legislation, that is, capacity to enter into the contract. Here, we can see that the classification into the adult and minor has a reasonable relation to the object, that is the capacity to enter into the contract. So, the classification is reasonable and it qualifies the test for the valid classification. Here, the question arises, what should be the object of classification? The object of classification must be lawful and not contrary to any law. In the case of Subramaniam Swamy versus CBI 2014, court held that if the object itself is discriminatory, the classification cannot be reasonable. So, if the object itself is discriminatory, then the explanation that classification is reasonable and having rational relation to the object sought to be achieved is immaterial. Now, everyone is requested to like and share the video among your peers, and you are also requested to subscribe the channel. Our next video will come soon and the topic will be application of Article 14. Thank you for watching this video.